grandmother?
Yes.
Okay. And your mother, what did she die of? When she died?
My mother?
Yeah.
She had a stroke.
A stroke?
Yeah.
And your father?
And I might have been some aneurysm too.
Oh, okay. And then your father, when he died in 1973, what did he die from?
I think it was heart. He had emphysema too.
Okay.
He was kind of a heavy smoker until late in life.
Okay. And then you said you have some other family buried out here?
Yes, I have my grandparents and my aunt.
Okay. Do we want to walk over to their grave?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. And these are your grandparents?
These are my grandparents, yeah.
Your grandparents?
Yeah. Probably. So the name is...
Do you remember what your grandmother died of?
No, I don't.
Do you remember when your grandmother died? Do you have memories of that? You would have been 5,
My
right?
grandmother?
Yeah.
I was 5 years old when she died, and it was in the cold weather. It was very cold, I guess. And then they kept me at the house, and from where they lived, I could see the cemetery. So I stood at the kitchen window and I was watching the cemetery while they were...
You watched the...
funeral went.
Huh. How about your grandfather? Do you remember what he died from?
I think it was his heart.
His heart?
Yeah. I couldn't say for sure. I wasn't around him at the time when he was sick.
Okay. And then you said you had an aunt as well out here?
Had what?
You have an aunt buried out here as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. He...
Were you close to your Aunt Frederica?
I never got to know her. She died in 1918.
Oh, so you were 3.
Yeah.
Do you know what she died of?
That flu.
Oh, the flu epidemic?
Epidemic, yeah, in 1918.
Okay. Did she have children when she passed away?
No.
No.
She was only married, I think, very shortly.
Oh, okay. So she was 87, 83, 90. She wasn't very old. She
No.
passed away.
13...
22?
32.
32.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anybody else out here that you would like us to take a picture of or anything? Any other headstones?
No, that's all of my family that's out here.
Okay. Well, we could head back to his childhood home.
Das Los ist mir gefallen. Auf Lebenslicht des mir ist schönes Erb Worten. Translation? Oh, the Los.
I don't know what das Los is.
That would be... trying to think of the word that might fit Los.
could look that up at home.
Yeah.
I have a German language.
I got a dictionary at home.
Yeah, we could look that up. Who picked out the headstones for your grandparents?
Huh?
Who picked out the headstone for your grandparents?
Well, what happened here when she died, and then this this piece was had them cut the stone. It was this high,
Oh, okay.
and then they cut that part out and set the top on it, and then they made one for grandfather
Okay.
to match it, sort of.
Okay. Huh, it's really pretty.
Had the
Headstone.
well, it's well, it so happened the levens in life's meest genie. I inherited, and I had a nice inheritance. I guess it was sort of expressing itself that their life, they inherited the everlasting rest or something like that. I can't really.
We can figure out and add into that. Figure out what it means. Okay.
Picked out my mother's, and then I duplicated his when he died.
Okay.
And I got the base for it. Then before it was on the cement.
It was just on the cement.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So, this home that your home that we're going to, this is the home that when your parents moved into town that you lived in.
Yeah, that isn't the one.
Oh, okay.
We lived in about 4 different houses before they bought that one.
Okay. So, about how old were you when they bought that one?
That one was bought after I was out of high school.
Okay.
No, I was still going to school when they bought that. That's right.
But you were like a teenager?
Yeah.
Okay.
So was that water tower there when you were?
The water tower?
Yeah.
No, that didn't come until about 1947, 48. That's when they put water and sewer into the city here.
So did your parents live in this house then until they passed away?
Yes. They rented, after they moved into town, they rented until this house came available, and a good neighbor financed them so they could buy it. They paid it off $10 a month.
$10 a month?
Yeah.
How much did they buy it for? Do you remember?
I think it was $1,000.
Oh my goodness.
It was just a 2-bedroom house.
Just a 2-bedroom house?
Huh?
And then there's that garage there as well?
Well, my dad built that afterwards. Yeah. That was built much later.
So were the trees always here, or?
No. My dad got these little trees from when they were planting the shelter belts, the government had made a deal that the farmers built shelter belts, all over the state. And so he worked on that, and he got the trees and planted them. And they were just a foot and a half high then. But this is, let's see, I'd say 65 years ago or more.
Okay. So what year did your dad build the garage?
I think about 1948.
Okay. Did you help him with that process?
I did, yes.
Was that a lot of work?
The reason he built the garage was he needed some storage, and Herbert got a car, the first car he had. So he says, we can't have that sitting outside, we got to build the garage. So one of the families up in town said they had a barn they wanted tore down. So my dad tore the barn down and used the lumber to build the garage.
Oh.
Of course, there's some new lumber in there too.
So you laid the foundation and everything for it?
Yeah.
Oh my. So what was that building, that little building out there, what is that?
That's the smokehouse.
That's the smokehouse.
Yeah.
Was that there when your dad
My
bought
dad,
it?
yeah,
Or-
my dad used to butcher and then cure the meat in there.
Really?
Yeah.
Where would your mom's garden be? Where did she used to have her garden?
On the west of the house, that was all garden.
Can we walk on there? Is that okay?
Oh yeah, yes.
So when you lived here, did you have neighbors on both sides of you when your
Oh,
your
yeah.
parents bought it? Yeah.
Yeah. But it's different houses. They weren't.
It's worth these houses, but
There was a two-story house over here, and the house over there has been tore down. And they built on that lot.
Okay.
Yeah, this used to be the garden here.
Right here.
Yeah.
What used to be out there where the
There was a shed on that,
okay.
but I sold it when we had the auction sale.
So where was your bedroom? Where was your bedroom?
I didn't bring the key. We could go in. You want to go in?
Yeah, actually. Let's
Oh.
go. Yeah, we can go get the key if you don't mind.
Yeah. Oh, I never thought of that. Well, this is the kitchen, and then there's a living room, and then there's a bedroom. And I slept in the living room
Oh.
on a
With your grandpa, right?
yeah,
When
with
he
a
came?
with a fold out bed or couch. And then when water and sewer came in, then we took part of this bedroom and made a closet and a bathroom.
Wow.
Water and sewer come in at 47, and then we made a bathroom in the bedroom that my folks used, and I slept in the living room.
Okay.
So we had a dugout to store the potatoes and stuff underneath. It's a, and then there was a cistern. My dad and I dug it for catch the rainwater.
Oh.
We used to catch the rainwater there.
Huh.
And then we had a pump in the kitchen where we could pump it up.
Really? Huh. pets or animals that you had
No,
out here?
no.
Just you,
I
your
never.
mom. So did you go to a country school before you came to town?
No.
You just went to the town school?
My mother was not healthy at the time after I was born, and they decided to quit farming.
Okay.
So I was 6, and I should have gone to school in the country, but it was 3 miles from to take me to the school and then go back and get me in the afternoon. And my dad says if we're going to quit farming, he could wait a year and go to school in town. So
So
I,
you.
I started school when I was 7 instead of 6.
Okay. So did you ever make up that grade, or did you just graduate a year later?
Yeah, I just graduated later.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I was almost 19 when I graduated instead of 18.
So this church here, how long has this old building been?
Oh, this has been here a long time. Yeah. Let's see. That was the Baptist church to begin with, and then it became the Lutheran church, and now it's the Catholic church, and they are closing it up so there won't be any Catholic church in Gackle.
Oh. So what are they going to do with the building?
They haven't. They got it advertised, and I think if you want to pay them $1, you can have it. They'll turn the deed over to you. Yeah, good. Hi there, Jake. How are you? Huh? I used to live in there.
You did live in that house?
Oh yeah, I grew up in there.
Well, after
Two
your
and
parents?
huh?
After your parents died, did you live there?
No, I never lived there after I got married. I bought this house. This was a parsonage. The Baptist church was here on the corner. But that's
I
not.
didn't even realize that was Elma.
Now, see, the Baptists have built three churches. They built that one and then this one, and now they got one down here.
So what did you want to be when you grew up?
What did I want to be?
Yeah, what did you want to be?
Well, I thought I was going to be a teacher. And then, with the Depression and all that, I didn't have any money, and my parents couldn't. They weren't hardly able to get me through high school, I guess. Didn't have any money. So I had to, the year I was a senior, I went to work for a farmer out here, and I got $15 a month and board and room.
Really?
Yeah. So that was, and my mother saved the money for the 3 months. I guess I ended up with $52 or something like that in the bank. That was my money to graduate with high school.
Huh. So when you went, was the town school, did they have high school in the same school that they had grade school, or did you go to?
Yeah, it was all together, 12 grades.
Okay. But you had different classes and like a one-room school.
Oh, yeah.
You actually were separated into classes.
The high school was upstairs. There were probably 4 rooms upstairs. Yeah.
Okay.
And there were 4 rooms downstairs where the grades were, and they were like first and second and third were together, and fourth and fifth and sixth and seventh and eighth. And, I mean, they were.
They combined like
Yeah,
some
they
of the grades together,
yeah,
but it wasn't.
Yeah, one teacher would teach 2 grades.
Did you have a favorite teacher?
Oh, they were all nice teachers, as far as I was concerned.
Did you like school?
I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun going to school. I was this athletic type, so sports was important.
What sports did you play?
Oh, I played almost everything. Baseball, basketball, track. That's about the limit of our sports at that time. We didn't have football.
Oh, okay. What
And
was your favorite?
baseball.
Baseball?
Uh-huh.
What position did you play?
Several.
Several. You're the utility player?
Huh?
The utility player?
Yeah, I played shortstop. I I even pitched, but not long, not much. And then I played third base, and I played catch. I caught for several years behind the bat. So, it's not going to be so. But we got spider webs. Now, which key is it that'll get us in?
So were you a good student when you were in school?
This house is deteriorated a lot, so don't expect to see much.
Well, what year was it built in, do you know?
Huh?
What year was it built in?
This?
Yeah.
Probably 1900.
1900?
That's it. Ooh, it smells.
So this is your guys' kitchen.
Yeah. Now this section was not on the house. After I got out of the CC, we had $700 saved because every month $25 came home.
Home and you get a Cat 5.
5, yes. And Mother put that away. So when I came home, she says, if I would, let them have the $700 to build onto this house out a room for a kitchen. So I gave them the 700, and this is what they came up with.
So did you help build the kitchen on?
I had a little help, yeah. A fellow by the name of Mr. Hanson from Streeter built the cabinets, and I helped him build the cabinets.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, this was my mother's ironing board. Oh, let's see. Now we need something. Anyway. Now that's
So what did your family use?
now the stove was sitting here. We had a kerosene stove, and the kitchen table and chairs were here, in front of the windows, and there was no refrigerator then, and there was no sink, but we did have a sink later on and then there was a pump that came up out of the cistern. There was a sink here. We had what we call a wash cabinet,
Oh, okay.
a little cabinet with a wash dish on it and a mirror. That was all that was there.
So how did your family keep food cold?
Huh?
How did you keep food cold in the
Oh,
summertime?
well, we had a space heater in here.
Okay.
And, first we had a hard coal space heater
Okay.
that was setting right where the chimney is now.
Okay.
And and then later on we got to oil, burning oil. We had an oil space heater.
Okay.
Yeah. When my grandfather came and we would sleep, he and I slept here in this room and my folks slept in the other room. And then the space heater was over there, and the couch was here that folded out, so we could sleep.
Okay.
And
So before you added on the kitchen, where did your family do the cooking?
here, in here. Yeah. Yeah, this was the kitchen and living, and that was the bedroom.
Okay.
And then when water and sewer came in, why we stole this much space from the bedroom to build a clothes closet here and a bathroom here.
Okay. But initially it was
You
just
need-
all one big bedroom?
It's been dismantled mostly.
So you had a shower in here?
Yes, a shower and a stool and a sink. But I sold the shower in the auction sale and the sink, and
So, when you guys didn't have a refrigerator, what did you use to keep your food cold? To keep the milk and the cream?
we used this this base, not a basement, this oh gosh, everything is, yeah, we'd store stuff down, it's cool down there.
Oh, okay. You'd store stuff down there.
Yeah, we'd have to go down and get it. Mother would say, Herbert, you gotta go get some potatoes, or you gotta go get this or that. Canned goods, she canned a lot.
And to put all our cans down there?
Huh?
She put all the cans and stuff down there?
Yeah, we
Okay.
had shelving. We just
Store it down there?
dug out the floor wasn't cemented, but we put a wood floor down, so,
Okay.
and, so that's where the oil came in, for the oil stove. And
So how long has the house been sitting vacant?
since 1973, when my dad passed away.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the flour bin.
Oh.
I kept flour in here. And this is the bread box,
Oh my goodness.
lined with a sink metal, I guess. So
To help keep it fresh.
and this happened in, let's see, I got out of the CCs in '39. It happened around that time.
Okay. Okay. Huh.
Yeah.
Great. Before you got electricity, what would you use to light the place, to keep it lit?
Kerosene lamps, yes.
Kerosene lamps?
And now this is a folding out ironing board here, but I can't open it now.
That's where your mom would do the ironing?
Yeah, she'd iron here.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. So what type of chores did you have to do around the house? What type of chores were you responsible for around this house?
I could go get the water. About 2 blocks away, there was a well. I had to go to that well to get the water.
Okay.
And I'd go down to the shed to get the coal. And in the winter, the cured sausage and the meat was salted down in a barrel. So I had to go down and get the sausage or the meat out of the barrel. Some Mother found all kinds of. You know what she'd say? She says, Herbert, I don't have a girl, so you got to be a girl and a boy. So you dust the furniture. You do this and you do that.
Did the house get real dirty during the dirty 30s?
Oh yes, we didn't have pavement. It was just muddy streets and dusty when it was dry. Yeah. But close it up so nobody will think that there's somebody living here.
Yeah.
The wind, the reason I got to nailing it shut because the wind would work the door and finally it would flop back and forth, you know.
Oh.
So I thought, well, I guess I'll have to nail it shut.
Well, shall we go to the church and then to the school?
Yeah.
Go to the school? Church and school?
Okay,
Sounds good?
we can do that.
So your parents, they were both Lutheran as well?
Yes. Well, my dad was Baptist, I guess, but when he married my mother, he went Lutheran.
Oh, okay. And then was your wife Lutheran as well?
Yeah, my wife was Lutheran when she came from Russia.
Okay. So your wife came over from Russia then?
No, my mother.
Oh, your mother, okay.
Yeah. My mother came from.
Was your father born in the U.S. then, or?
No, he was born over in Bessarabia,
Okay.
same as my mother,
Same as
only
your mother?
in different colony.
Oh, okay. So they didn't know each other before they...
No, they didn't. See, my dad was 3 years old, and he grew up out here on the farm.
Okay.
And then my mother was 20 when she came over, immigrated over, and
Oh, so she came over later then.
oh, much later. See, my dad came in 1893, I think,
Okay.
and my mother came in 1910.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot later.
Yeah.
So,
But they were the same age. My mother was born in May 1889, and my dad in July 1889.
Oh. So your mom was actually the older one.
Yeah, she was the boss, I guess.
Okay, so which way do we go to the church?
Go straight, and then we'll end up at the church.
So when you guys would go to church, would you walk to church?
Oh, sure.
You just walk to church every day?
Yeah.
Or every Sunday?
My dad owned one car in his life, and that was a Model T.
Oh.
And after living in town, he had that on the farm. He got it. And living in town, then go to your left. And the Model T eventually didn't run anymore, so that was the end of the. We didn't have a vehicle to drive.
The next car in the family was the one you got your first car?
Well, they couldn't have. Yeah, mine was the first car, and my mother had passed away already then.
Did your mother ever learn how to drive a car?
My mother?
Yeah.
No, she didn't even learn English.
Really?
Yeah. Well, she understood a little English, being around, but she talked German all the time.
Oh, okay.
And of course, Dad did too then.
So is this the church here?
Yeah, this is the church right here.
Okay. You want to turn?
You can go through the drive. I don't know what angle you want to take it from.
So has this been remodeled many times since, or is this?
This church?
Yeah.
No.
This is the original.
Yeah, this was built in 1960.
Okay.
So it's the original. The only thing they've done is the bell has taken. They took that out of the bell tower and put it on a stand because.
You guys can stay in and he can talk
Okay.
about it, and I'll get out
But,
and take a picture.
you know, they're ringing the bell in the bell tower. It always caused the roof to leak. And so they decided they'd change that. I think it's open if you wanted to go in and look around. There's a cross on the end, on the north end, on the gable end. That lights up at night.
And so you've been going to this church since 1960?
Yeah, since it's been built. Before that, we went to the one across the street from my house.
Oh, okay.
That was the Lutheran church then. What happened, there was a Neudorf church west of town and a St. James church, all Lutheran. St. James down south here, where Alma took you, to that cemetery.
Okay.
Yeah, and those two churches closed up and they came in and joined the Gackle. And then the Gackle became a larger membership, so they built this church. But Gackle and Judd were as a Lutheran church one time. And the minister from Judd would come up and give services.
So before they built this church in 1960, was the old church on the same site? Or was there not a Lutheran church in town before 1960?
16?
60.
Oh, yeah. We had a Lutheran church here when I was 7 years old.
Okay. Was that also on this site
Which
here?
which is 80-some years ago.
Was it also here on in this area, or was it
No,
somewhere else?
no. I can show you a picture of that church that I first started in.
We'd love to get a picture.
It doesn't exist anymore, and it became the Gackle Cleaners after the see, the Baptist built that church next to my house, and then they sold the church that they had to us, to the Lutherans. So we sold this little building down here that was our church to the Gackle Cleaners.
Oh, okay.
And that was in 1947 or 6. After the war, one of the veterans started the Gackle Cleaners there.
Okay.
So shall we?
Go to the school?
Yeah,
It's not the same school, but it's same spot, right?
I'll direct you over to where the first house that I think we lived in.
Oh, wow. That'd be great,
But
yeah.
it doesn't look the same. They have added, made different changes, so it doesn't look like the old.
Changing with the times, huh?
Yeah, it doesn't look like the house where I lived.
So would your family go to church every Sunday?
Oh yes. Herbert had to learn his lessons so he could answer questions when he got to Sunday school, and I had to learn it in German.
Oh.
I had to learn to read and write and speak German.
So did your dad, you said your mom didn't really, I mean, she knew some English, but didn't really learn English. Did your dad learn English?
My dad?
Yeah.
Well, he only, I don't think he made more than the 4th grade in school, and then he was big enough to help on the farm, so he stayed home and worked with the family farm.
Okay.
This is the house where I used to start. Well, it's just just it's on the same lot. But the house that we lived in is inside.
Is inside that?
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
they just built around it.
Huh.
And
That's amazing.
it's a couple from Fargo that bought the place.
That's a huge place now.
Yeah.
So when you started out, how old were you when you lived here?
I was 7 years old.
And how
And I walked up the street to the school up there, you know, where the school is now.
Okay.
But
how many rooms did the old house used to have?
this one?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. It had an upstairs. I think there were probably 6 rooms.
Okay. Did you have your own bedroom then at this house?
Oh, yeah.
Would your grandpa come and stay with you at this house too, or?
Huh?
Would your grandpa come to stay with you at this house?
Gosh, I don't. Yeah, he would come to stay at our, because he stayed, when he didn't have work, he worked out, because he didn't have a farm, so he just, and he was single, I mean his wife had passed away, so he just worked out as a hired man at different jobs, you know.
And this house, you said your parents rented?
Yeah, and then when he was unemployed, why, he'd come and live with us. And when he'd stay a month at our house, and then he'd go a month to his son's house in Fredonia, and then he'd spend a month over in Judd with his daughter over there. Then he'd come back again. I mean, in the winter, he might make the rounds twice. So Herbert had to sleep with his grandfather.
So did this house have a kitchen then for your mom to cook in?
Oh yes, yeah. This was, there's a kitchen, living room, and a couple of bedrooms downstairs, and then I think there were a couple of bedrooms upstairs.
So this was a bigger house then than the house that your parents bought?
Oh yeah, that they eventually bought. Yeah, this was a rental. Yeah, I have a picture of what Gackle looked like back then, but can't really explain it all. You can take a left rather.
Many changes over the years.
Really. Yeah.
So when you went to school, was there really good attendance at your school? Children regularly attend?
Oh yeah, they were regular in attendance, but never was a big school. You know, I think maybe 150 or 60 students is all we ever had.
How many were in your class?
We graduated with 22 in our high school.
Okay.
There were 22 of us. I'll show you my high school graduation.
Oh, that'd be great.
I think I forgot to show it to you before.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen that yet.
There's a place for sale.
Was that place around when you were growing up?
Yeah, I used to live on where this shed is. There was a house here that I lived in. Yeah,
So right here, huh? You lived here?
Yeah, on this corner.
That was pretty close to the school.
Oh yeah, we were close to the school.
So this is where the old school was. It's been replaced though, but
Yeah.
with this one. Wait, when did they build this school?
Oh, the new one?
Yeah.
Oh, that was in about 1970, I don't know, 72, 74, somewhere in there.
Was the old one just not up to code, or did it burn
No, it
down?
burnt. It burnt.
How did it catch on fire?
Well, I don't know. It was in the summer months, and they think it was an electrical short that started the fire.
Huh. And you went K through 12?
Huh?
You went through high school at that school?
Oh, no. I went through high school here, but my son was in high school at that time.
Oh, he was in high school when it burnt down, huh?
Yeah, my son.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in high school then.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a sophomore, and they had he played football. They had a football program then, but after the fire, there was no more uniforms or anything, and the school board didn't feel they had the money to start it up again. Yeah, this was the banker's house.
That's a nice house. So when you were in school, were you a good student? Did you do well in school?
I'm mediocre.
Mediocre.
If you come into Emil Schaefer's, that's that house over there.
Which one is it?
The brownish, or whatever you call that color.
The dark one?
Yeah, the dark colored.
Okay. Yeah, because we're going there in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That's where Emil lives.
Now we know where to go.
Yeah. I thought of you. I heard you say that you were going to interview Emil.
Yeah, I think on the 27th we were interviewing him.
Yeah.
So when you were when you went to school, could you speak German in school, or was it strictly English?
Well, the teacher got me to speak English pretty quick. Yeah, no, the kids all were speaking English, and I would come from the farm when I couldn't talk English, so
So were you guys always the Orioles,
yeah,
even when you were a kid?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, we were the Orioles. We used to sled down this hill here in the wintertime, right along the boulevard here. We'd bring our sleds to school, and then we'd sled during recess and stuff like that.
Has this park always been here?
No. Mr. Lair, the banker, donated this for a park purpose.
Okay.
That was before a lot of the buildings were around here. And this was a sidewalk, a wooden sidewalk all the way uptown almost. There was no... And when I lived over there, where we just had been, I had to walk all the way over here to school. Now let's see.
So what businesses were in town when you grew up?
There were 3 grocery stores, 3 implement dealers, and garages. And I think there were about 3 or 4 filling stations and cream stations. You know, they bought the cream from the farmers, and the grocery stores would buy the eggs from the farmers, and then the cream check and the eggs would buy the groceries that they took home on Saturday night. And
So where would you go to get ice cream if you wanted ice cream when you were a child? Did you have an ice cream parlor shop, or?
yeah, there was the drugstore was where we used to get our sodas and ice cream, yeah.
Okay.
That was in the building up here.
Okay, where should we go?
Yeah,
Did you say
this,
something?
yeah, this was a cream station, and that was the lumber yard my dad worked in down there. And this is the hardware store at that time.
Do we want to park and walk up and down, walk
This
down Main
this
Street?
building was put here in, I think, 1905. It's all, I think it's up there on the top, or maybe it isn't there anymore.
1906.
Huh?
1906.
1906. Yeah. And then this was a store at one time, and this was my post office when I first started.
Oh, when you were a postmaster?
Yeah.
Do you want to walk the street? Yes.
Yeah, let's get out and we'll walk down Main Street, and you could tell us what the buildings were when we used to be a while ago. And then we can...
Yeah, there used to be a big department store on the corner that burnt.
How'd that one catch on fire?
Don't ask me. I wouldn't know.
Did you get to watch that one burn too?
Huh? Yeah, no, I wasn't around when that burned.
used to have an old grocery store over here. How long has that movie theater been there?
Well, that was built after World War II.
Okay.
And that department store was, I got a picture of it, the inside of it.
Okay.
But I don't know, my mother said that my grandma was in the store when they took that picture. I don't know.
Huh.
But you can't distinguish the people.
So did your mom used to go to that department store for
Oh yeah,
clothing?
they were. And there used to be a hardware where the theater is. That was a hardware, and that burned down. And the restaurant, that's an old building, but with a new front.
Old building with a new front. Has that always been the cafe?
Yeah. No, that used to be a butcher shop, and my dad worked for the butcher shop.
Okay. What types was your dad a butcher then?
Oh yeah, he did a lot of butchering.
And then next to the cafe, what used to be there?
He would go out to the farm. They'd buy a animal, and he'd go out to the farm, and they'd kill it and bring the meat in, and then process it in the shop here.
Oh my. Mm-hmm. And then what used to be in this building here that's next to the cafe?
Oh, that was there was a drugstore at one time.
Okay.
That was in there. Later on, it became a hardware store.
Okay.
This used to be a hotel here.
Really?
Yeah, the Fry Hotel, and then that went out of business. Why what was in there? A grocery? No, there was several different businesses in there. One for a while it was an electrical appliance store, and then it became a grocery store. Oh.
What's going on over there?
Mosquitoes. That's what's going on.
They recommend using a tripod. There's a reason.
Yeah.
And then what used to be over here?
That used to be, that's the store I was telling you that burnt down, and then they rebuilt. And next to it was a harness shop. And then it turned into a grocery store. It was known as Henry Jenner's Grocery.
Okay.
And this was the Rembold store. And then the bank. And the garage was Fred Wolf's, and then it became Rembold's. Anyway.
Let's cross the street.
Cross the street and do the other side? So when you were a kid, what types of things would you do in town?
I don't know, play ball and hide and go seek, and well, yeah, all those kids' games.
Would you cause havoc in town?
Huh?
Would you cause any havoc in town?
Well, Halloween was our havoc days.
Halloween was your havoc days?
Yeah.
What would you do on Halloween?
Oh, well, all kinds of mischief, you know. We would upset the outhouses and take a string and a safety pin and stick it in the window screen, you know.
Uh-huh.
And then we'd take rosin and rub the string with the rosin, and that would make a noise in the house.
Oh, no. You were a troublemaker, weren't ya?
I don't know.
Got into it.
You had to find all kinds of things. We'd go out swimming at the swimming hole in the summertime.
Okay.
You know.
Okay, so what did you say that this used to be down here? This building?
That was a hardware furniture place,
Okay.
furniture store.
That building was built in 1906, so it's...
Yeah.
How about the senior center? What did that used to be?
Well, it used to be a grocery, and then it became a butcher shop, and then it became a drugstore.
Okay.
That was after the World War II. It became a drugstore. And I was in the post office then,
And then that insurance place used to
next
be
to
a
it.
post office.
Yeah, and where this building is now, there was a barber shop and a dentist office. And then that building was moved in, and then they had a grocery in it. Now it's a bar.
Okay.
And the other building was, I think, moved in too, as far as I remember.
Okay.
And that was not there when I was a kid, though.
Oh, okay. Where was the doctor's office have been when you were a kid?
The doctor's office?
Yeah.
Oh, that was in this, where the dentist and the doctor were.
Okay. Did you ever have to go
But
see the
most
doctor?
of the time, the doctor operated out of his home.
Oh, okay. Did he live here in town?
Yes.
Do you remember what the doctor's name was?
Miracle.
Did you ever have to see the doctor?
Oh, yeah.
When you were a
I had to
kid?
go. I had to go to the dentist one time, too, to have a tooth pulled. Oh, that was tough.
Did they numb it or anything, or did they not have stuff to numb it back then, and they just yank, or how did they do that?
I think he numbed it some, but not much. It hurt.
How old were you?
Huh?
How old were you?
I was probably 8 or 9 years old.
Do you have like a cavity or something?
Evidently, I had a toothache.
It needed to come out?
One of my, yeah, there was a, then next to the vacant lot, there was a feed and seed and a flower store. They handled red flower and seed. And then I think there was a barber shop on the corner at that time. And then there was a filling station across the street next to the post office now. And that post office was built the same year the church was built,
Okay.
in 1961, I think.
61, okay. So who was your best friend when you were growing up? Who'd you hang out with a lot and do all the mischievous stuff with?
Well, I had many friends in town.
You had many friends in town?
Yeah.
Are any of them still around?
Sorry to say, but they're all passed away.
All passed away.
Emil is about the only one left.
How old's Emil?
How old is Emil?
Yeah.
He's 88 or 89 now.
So he was in your class.
Yeah, we were in the same class.
Oh, okay.
I think he's a year younger than I because I started school.
The year later.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think he's 88.
Was there somewhere else that you wanted to go out?
There used to be a creamery behind where the city fire hall is now.
Okay.
And they made butter and
Did the town have a police station or a police office when you were growing up?
oh no, all you saw is the man walking down with a badge on his. That was the office.
That was the office.
Yeah. And we had, we were supposed to get off the streets, keep things quiet. So if we were playing under a street light somewhere, and pretty soon the officer the marshal we called him, he'd come and he always carried a whip. And he'd crack the whip, and boy, did we take off. We all knew where to go then.
When you heard that sound of that whip.
Yeah.
So these were all dirt roads then throughout town when you grew
Yeah,
up?
this was all dirt, gravel.
And were these sidewalks, wood sidewalks in town too, like you had on
To
your way
begin
school?
with, there were wood sidewalks, and then it became concrete.
Okay. Do you remember about when they paved town?
Oh, the pavement came through. I think, yeah. See, we had a gravel road. 46 was gravel before, and that was gravel, not paved until about 1955,
Okay.
maybe even later. And this was gravel road too. This 56, it wasn't paved. I'm not sure when it was paved, but then when they paved it, they came right through town.
Do you remember when Gackle got electricity?
Electric?
Yeah, when it...
We had a power plant when I was a kid.
Okay.
Yeah, and you couldn't run too much. You couldn't run a lot of motors or stuff because they didn't have enough voltage to run them. Your lights weren't even very bright. They were dim,
Okay.
electric lights. Yeah, and the power plant was just about a half a block from the corner down.
Huh.
Yeah, that was.
So is this the street that, for 4th of July, there'd be a parade down this street?
Oh yeah, there's always been parades. And the 4th of July used to be a big celebration, but now it's gotten so it doesn't amount to anything. People are more interested in going to the lake or go fishing or do something else.
Even Gackle.
Yeah.
So when you used to have 4th of July here, would people come out on the sidewalks and...
Oh, the place was just buzzing like an anthill, People were visiting, They were having a lot of fun.
Did you have a lot of fireworks or firecrackers?
Yeah, there was some. I didn't have much money to buy firecrackers, but we blew all our money for firecrackers.
That's what the money was spent on?
Yeah. Yeah.
So would they have games, organized games and stuff, like races or stuff for the kids?
Yeah, we had foot races and sack races and all different things that they had us do, Different certain ages they'd put together and they'd race.
Were you good at the races?
No, I wasn't a fast runner.
Were there any other types of times when the whole town would turn out for a celebration or something?
Oh, a lot of people turned out. Yeah, the farmers. We used to have a farmer almost every half mile, and now you got to drive 3 and 4 miles. When I started in the post office, I'd say we had mailboxes to deliver mail to the farmers, almost every half mile. Now, the mail carrier can drive 2-3 miles before he finds a box.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the farmers the little ones have died out, and the big farmers are taking care of all the land now.
So when you were a child, how big was Gackle? How many people were in Gackle?
I'd say around 600
How many
at the time when I was. Huh?
How many are there now?
I'd say 350,
So about...
between 350 and 4.
Okay. So still a pretty good, not too bad size for how many towns are shrinking.
We've lost so much of the business because people can travel good roads and good cars, and they go to Jamestown and they go to Bismarck and Fargo. And
try to find better paying jobs.
Yeah, the young people don't stay here. That's just the old people that
Around.
are holding down the...
Did you say that there was someplace on the outside of town that you wanted to go to as well? Should we head out there? Were there more boys than girls, or was it about the same? Or
Well, there were more boys, I think, than girls.
okay.
At least in my class, there were 22 of us, and there were only 3 girls in the
Oh
class.
my goodness. Were they mostly German Russian students, or were they mixed?
Well, it was a mix. We had a good settlement of Finns in south and southwest of town.
Okay.
A lot of Finnish people lived there.
Would the children pick on the Finnish kids?
Sometimes, depending on the kid, you know.
Yeah.
If he was sort of an oddball, well, you'd get picked on.
Did you ever
Yeah.
do any teasing?
The creamery was right here where the vacant lot, and then this was part of the creamery too.
Okay.
And they made a fire, and the vacant lot on your left was a filling station and a implement dealer.
Oh.
Now the red building is my post office.
Oh.
I built that.
You built that?
Yeah, I built that, and it's my property now. I collect the rent.
Huh. So did you ever do any of the teasing, Herbert?
On TV?
Teasing of kids when you were in school.
Oh,
Did you ever pick on anybody?
oh, it wasn't just mostly not done as an individual. It was more done as a group.
As a group?
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you,
There used to be a hotel on this lot too, but that's been changed. The Stewart Hotel. Yeah. Yeah, take a left and we'll go up.
would you take your lunch to school, or did you
No,
go home
I
for
walked.
lunch?
I walked back and forth.
Walk back and forth every day?
Uh-huh. There was no lunch in school.
Okay.
Well, some kids did bring lunch if they were from the farm, you know.
So you did have some farm kids come in to
Oh
town
yeah,
for
we
school?
had farm kids come.
Did
Yeah.
farm kids and town kids get along?
Oh yeah. No problem. Swimming pool is back there, but that's not in my childhood. This is where the doctor lived.
Oh, this is where the doctor lived? Where
Yeah.
you'd go?
Dr. Miracle lived there.
Okay.
And yeah, his daughter was my teacher.
Really?
Yeah, Beatrice Miracle.
Uh-oh. Did you drop something outside?
This is the house here.
This is where your grandpa used to live?
Yeah, this is my grandpa's house.
Who owns it now?
People by the name of Henny. He's the custodian at the church. No, he's not the custodian. The custodian lives over there.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Oh. I'm not sure who's living in it.
Did you used to go over to your grandpa's and visit?
No, not very often, no. I guess I didn't feel too welcome, so I didn't go.
Did he live there by himself?
No, who?
Your grandpa?
Grandpa Herman didn't. No, he lived with. He had. Grandma died, and then he got a second marriage,
Oh, okay.
and then he moved to Harriet, South Dakota, and lived there until she died. The second wife died. Then he finished his life up in Bismarck with his son.
Okay.
Yeah, that's. Well, that. Grandpa had.
Did it look pretty similar?
That's the way it looked, except that the entryway has been added on. But the original shape is the same. Of course, another window has been put in that for the living room there. The first Lutheran church was right here where these pine trees are,
Okay.
and the vacant lot there. But it became a part of that resident now. And
So when you were growing up, was anybody in your family seriously ill or injured at any time?
injured?
Yeah.
Well, I don't remember that there was any serious injuries.
No broken bones or...
No.
Did your mom have any special home remedies for illnesses?
Oh, of course, everybody advises you about what to do for this and that. You know, there are a lot of remedies.
Do you remember any of them?
Vicks was a common medication that if you had a cold, stuffy nose or anything, why. And if you had oils, you put a mustard pack on or something like that. Yeah.
So your guys' farm was how many miles north of Gackle?
It's about 8 miles up there. You would, they used peroxide a lot, you know. You fall and skin your knee or something, peroxide was put on. And
Which way?
take a left and I'm poor navigator. Got me thinking about other things, so I'm not paying attention to the road.
So when you were a teenager, what types of things did you do for fun?
Teenagers?
Yeah, when you were a teenager.
Oh, we had to, we did a lot of athletic things like baseball and basketball. And in the evenings we didn't have anything going on. We'd get together and play whist a lot.
Okay.
And whoever's house we were at, we'd probably get a hot chocolate drink or something. And that was what we used to do. There was a family that had a couple of cows, and we would milk the cows and separate the milk, and then there was a lot of cream that they didn't use. They had a couple of boys that were a little older than I am. One of them is living in Cullum yet, and we would stir up a bunch of ice cream, you know, and we'd go out and get some ice out from the outside, and we'd sit and crank it till we got the ice cream, and then we'd have our lunch after we got through playing cards. We'd have our ice cream, and we did that at Jenner's home, and then Arthur Hout in the basement of the hardware fixed up a room, cleaned up a room so we could, and so we'd be down in the basement at the hardware store and make ice cream and play cards. Once in a while, Arthur was quite a bit older than us, but he was a good friend of ours anyway. So he would load us up in a car and take us to Jamestown to a movie or something. see, I was probably 15.
Do you remember who you went on your first date with?
Oh, sure. Erna Hummel.
Where'd you take her?
Huh?
Where'd you take her?
Well, we didn't go anywhere because we had no cars, but we just walked the streets and sit around. There usually was, we double dated mostly.
What would a typical date have been like back then?
Huh?
What would a typical date have been like back then?
Typical date?
Yeah.
We just didn't amount to anything. It's just a lot of visiting and joshing around, you know. And I don't even remember that we would end up at the drugstore to have ice cream or something like that.
Should I go north here?
No, you go I think 3 miles out, and then you turn north.
How has courtship changed from what was courtship used what was it like back then compared to how it is now? You're courting a woman or a girl.
Well, it was mostly most of the time. I mean, you'd have a little get together at somebody's house, the girl's house, and just wasn't. I don't remember what we all did. We played different games, you know. What were some of those games? I've forgotten.
Did you ever attend any parties when you were a teenager?
Yeah, there were some parties, birthday parties and stuff like that.
What was it usually like?
Not too many, because most of the people were poor and didn't have any money to spend, so they wouldn't put any parties on.
Did you go dancing as a child or as a teenager?
I never cared for dancing.
Never cared for dancing.
I was a little bit, what you might say, bashful.
No way.
And I was scared to ask a girl to dance. Of course, I didn't know how. I hung out with boys more. I didn't hang out with girls very often. And in the winter we do sledding and ice skating, and in the summer we play baseball and go swimming, and we had different games that we would play in the back in the lot, you know, or vacant lot. We'd take a can at this next road going north. You take it right. There was a game we called Pig, and we'd get an empty tin can, and everybody had a stick about 3 foot long, and then we'd have a circle, and then the one was in the middle and then the can. We had to try to keep the can away from him.
Oh no.
and with their sticks. Well, if he got the can away from you, well, then you had to get in the middle, and he took your place in the circle. And it was just pastime. We climbed around old machinery that was sitting around town a lot, played on it, pretended we were thrashing or doing something. Now this is about 4 miles north, and then we should be just about there. I haven't been out in this area for so many years that I don't know what to expect. I used to come out here in the summer when my uncle was on the grandpa's farm. After my folks had left, my uncle and aunt lived there, and I'd go out and stay with them and catch gophers. And then you had to take 2 stones and get the gopher's tail off and save it, and then after you had a bunch of tails, you could take them in, and the county would pay for the tails. They give you sometimes 2 cents a tail or 3 cents a tail. I know I caught enough gophers to earn about, I don't know what the price of that tricycle was, but I had $8 or $10, I guess, and so my folks let me buy a tricycle, so I had a tricycle.
So how much land did your dad have before he retired from farming?
Huh?
How much land did your dad have before he stopped farming?
Well, there was, I think, 2 quarters. I don't even know if it was 2 quarters, but anyway, it was a lot of land to do with a horse and a plow, a single bottom plow, You could plow all day and probably not get more than 2 or 3 acres plowed, Now they got machines, and they drive down the field, and they got probably 3 acres in one swipe, just driving through with these big tractors and stuff. Yeah. My dad helped build you see, when Grandpa homesteaded, there was nothing there. So they had to build a sod house and a sod barn. And my dad had to help, and I guess it's not that he didn't help much with the house, but after they built the barn, he had to take the hand plow and a team of horses and go through the sod and turn over the sod so they could take the sod and put it on, make the barn, make bricks and make the barn.
So do you know who owns this property now?
Huh?
Do you know who owns your dad's property now?
Who owns it?
Yeah.
It was the Wolf family has it, I think.
Okay.
I'm not sure who it all owns. It was divided amongst the Wolf family. the son has some and the daughters have some. And as far as the Herman homestead, I don't know who owns that. Now the school would have been down in here where my dad would have had to bring me to. There's a rural school set out here in the field.
Oh, okay.
And from that farm that you see, my grandfather lived about a half a mile or so west of that. That's the Grentz farm. And my grandmother was a Grentz.
Oh, okay.
This was a Fisher farmer to our right here. And the Wolfs lived. We went by the place where they lived. They're back, so you couldn't see the farm. It's down in the sort of a valley. Yeah, my cousin lives on this farm, Marvin Grentz.
So now, did you say that your mom was a Grant's?
My mother?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, your grandma?
My grandma was a Grentz, yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. And so your grandpa's farm was just west of
This one,
the
yes.
Grant's?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Where's your wife buried?
At the Veteran Cemetery in Mandan, south at Fort Lincoln.
Okay.
She chose to go there, so because I'm a veteran, and she thought that would be
She's
good.
going to be buried next to you.
A good place to be. I don't know. Doesn't matter anyway. But it did to her.
What did your wife die
She had a rheumatoid arthritis, and I think her real problem was a virus in the lung that they couldn't kill the virus with antibiotics, so she died.
How old was she?
She was 75.
How long ago was that?
Oh, that's 93. Yeah. See, now I thought there would be a road here, but there's no more road here. There was a farm right over here and there was a road that goes down.
There's a road right here.
Yeah, but that goes into the farm. That goes into Marvin Grentz's farm. Yeah, the section line, we passed the section line where the road used to be. There's no use going in here because why don't you go up to the corner and go, and I'll show you where the cemetery is.
Okay.
Yeah, this whole area was a settlement of Germans from Russia. and they got together in I think 1897 or something like that. They started the Baptist church up here. To begin with, they met in homes, and then later on they built a little church, and that's where the cemetery is now. But evidently, this whole settlement went to the Baptist church. Then the Schmidts and the Kerners and the Fishers and the Wolfs and different families, Seidels.
So you got drafted for the war, right?
Yes.
Do you remember what your draft number was?
No. I'd have to look it up.
But you still have it?
I suppose I do.
Yeah.
Where did you serve at?
Huh?
Where did you serve? Where were you stationed at?
Well, I was inducted at Fort Snelling in Minnesota, and then I was ordered down to Camp Wallace in Texas. And I spent about 6 months at Camp Wallace training, and then they ordered me over to Georgia to Camp Stewart, or Fort Stewart, and that's where I was interviewed and given an administrative job in the headquarters company for the fort. So I remained there for the duration of the war.
Okay.
That had to be a relief for you.
Well, yeah, it was. I didn't enjoy going over obstacle courses and doing all that training that, you know, I got out of that. No more marches.
Yeah. And then not having to go to combat.
Yeah.
That was probably...
Yeah, I didn't have to duck any bullets, that's for sure.
That was a good thing.
So how old were you when you got drafted?
I was, I think 27.
Is that the graveyard out there?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Where is it at?
On the other side of the lake.
Oh, I see it. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And who's buried out there?
My aunt is buried out there.
Which aunt is that?
Huh?
What's her name?
That was Uncle John's wife. She died in 1918 with a flu epidemic.
Okay.
And they had 2 children at the time, Alice and Reuben.
So you lost 2 aunts in the flu epidemic, huh?
Yeah, in the flu epidemic. Yeah. I can look it up what her name was, but
So what's that? Is that like a family cemetery or?
From all of the people that live in the area here would get buried there. But I don't think there's been any burials there lately.
Okay.
They've given it up. There would be a road that goes around the water here to get there, but I don't know how they do it. I talked to a fellow that comes and cuts the grass. He said his son cut the grass for the Memorial Day, but I wouldn't know.
So how many years did you serve?
My cousin lives up here on this farm.
How many years did you serve in the Army for?
I was in the Army 42 months, 3.5 years, yeah. There's a road around the lake somewhere there, but I don't think we should try it.
Yeah, that's
No,
I'd rather not get stuck.
no, we don't want to. And with the heavy rain we just had,
Oh, yeah.
the land is sort of soft.
So what year did your mother pass away in?
My mother,
Yeah,
in 1946,
46. So were you still
I
in
was,
the Army at the
yeah,
time?
I was in the Army. I came home. I was home for a few months. She passed away in December. I came home in February. Yeah, so
That'd have been pretty tough for you, being away and having your mom sick.
yeah, yeah.
Was it really hard on your parents when you got drafted?
It was very, my mother especially, being I was the only child, and she hated to see me go.
Was it pretty scary for you?
Oh, no. Everybody accepted it, We were mad at Pearl Harbor because of Pearl Harbor, We said we've got to give those Japs something.
So you went to college, though, right, after high school?
Yeah, not right after. After high school, I went to the CCCs, and then from the CCs, I came home and I taught a rural school for 2 years, and then I went to college. At that time, there was a real teacher shortage, and they let high school graduates take a test, and if you passed the test, you got a certificate to teach. So the school boards in these rural schools could hire you.
So what school did you teach at?
I taught, the schoolhouses don't exist anymore, but I taught at one that was between here and Napoleon. I'd say it's about 18 miles west of Gackle. And then I taught one just 2 or 3 miles out of town.
Where would you stay when you were teaching at the rural schools?
At the farm with a farm family.
Do you remember what family you stayed with?
Oh yeah. Over in the Napoleon area, I stayed with the John Grint's family, and they're not related to these Grints here. And then I stayed with the Jacob Ginger family when I was teaching over in Neudorf.
Did you like teaching?
Not particularly. I felt so that I wasn't giving these students they were on their own more, because how can you teach in a one-room school 18 kids that are staggered in 7 grades?
No kidding.
You could spend 10 minutes probably with each class, and you've got arithmetic, you've got reading, you've got English, language, health, and how can you do all those subjects and in 7 grades? It's just, I felt it was so frustrating. You wanted to give those kids something, but you didn't have time to even explain it decently. But they turned out all right. Yeah.
where did you go to college?
in Valley City.
What was that like for you?
Oh, it was nice. I enjoyed going there, but I worked while I was going to school, you know. I was a clerk at the hotel, and I had to do my studies after I got off of work at 11 o'clock, and then be ready to go to the class in the morning whenever my first class was, you know. But it was okay.
Did you have your own place out there? Did you stay with somebody?
Well, I stayed. Yeah, I had a place that I stayed for. I had to pay board and room, and in a private home. But then I got the job at the hotel. Then I got my board and room at the hotel.
Oh, okay. What was it like in the CCCs?
In the CCCs,
Yeah.
very much like the Army. Yeah, we were under military supervision.
So the CCCs was like being in the military, huh?
Oh yeah, well, you had reveille in the morning. You got up and got dressed, and then you had a fallout for roll call, and then you go to the chow mess hall and have chow, and then you put on your work clothes and get ready to go out on the job, and that's where the military quit, and then the workforce was under the Forest Service. The Rangers would take you out, and that's what we did anyway, the company I was in. Other companies did different things. And then you had certain jobs that you did out in the forest. You tend to thin the trees, you know, they were growing too close to each other, and you cut out some of them. And then if you cut one out, it was, say, fence post size. You take the bark off. Fellows would come along with knives and peel the bark off and cut them to the proper length, and then they would be transported to the creosote vat where they were put in a creosote vat, and you had to build a fire under and keep the creosote so warm to penetrate into the wood, and then they were ready to put in the ground. See, that would preserve them for. So, and then some of them were large enough for telephone poles, so we'd make telephone poles out of that. And I was on a survey crew. Well, I did the vat work for a while, and then I went on a survey crew, and we laid out trails, fire trails up into the forest, in the Custer Forest in South Dakota. It's in the northwest corner of South Dakota, part of the Black Hills, you know, Custer Forest.
And so you get paid?
We got paid $30 a month, yeah, and 25 went home, and 5 you kept. They would give you to buy yourself toothpaste and whatever other things that you needed, because we were furnished everything, clothing and food. So the only expense we had was for personal things and to go to movies. I could go to a movie for 25 cents then.
Oh my goodness. Just thinking
Yeah.
So you'd already had quite a bit of practice, military practice, before you actually went into the
Yeah,
military.
the Army didn't bother me because I knew how I had to do things that the military wanted, because we had barracks inspections when I was in the CCs. We had to open our locker and everything had to be lined up properly, you know. Your socks had to be rolled just so, and your underwear, so everything had to be, you know, put in neatly so you passed inspection. And then they check your bed, see that you made your bed properly. There was a certain way that you fold everything. And I was educated in the military part when I got into the war.
So you were drafted relatively early then on it, or?
Yeah, in 41. Pearl Harbor happened on the 7th of January, was it?
December.
No, December, yeah. 7th of December in what, 41? 40, or 4?
Yeah, 41.
Yeah.
December 7th, 1941.
And then in July, I was sent to Texas.
Okay.
I was inducted.
So you were right up there with one of the first to go. Were you relatively older too than most of the people drafted?
Yes, I was. I was probably 5 or 6 years older than most of them. And then more than that in some, because they were drafting them at 18.
Yeah.
And I think I must have been, what would I have been? I was born in 1915 and 41. So I was 26, huh?
Yeah.
26, 27, somewhere in there.
How long after they announce your draft number do you have to be ready to go? How long
Well,
do they give you a notice?
there wasn't that. Usually the draft board would send you a postcard and tell you when you had to be ready to come. And I had to go to Napoleon, and then we were all put on a train in Napoleon. There was like 30 of us from Logan County that went on that train to Minneapolis, and ended up at Fort Snelling. We had a train ride on the Sioux train out of Napoleon to the cities. And then I had a train ride from the cities down to, what was it? I think it was down to Houston. And from Houston, I had a truck ride to Camp Wallace. And it took 3 days on the train to get from Minneapolis to Houston.
Really?
Yeah. They had to route us through St. Louis and then back through Arkansas and Texas. And it seemed forever.
And the whole time you're heading to Texas, were you picking up more people?
No, we had a train load right out of Minneapolis.
Oh, okay.
Because that was they processed everybody at Snelling.
Oh, okay.
You had your physical, and if you passed the physical, you were sent over to the quartermaster to pick up your uniform, and that was it. They'd give you so many undershirts and so many shorts and so many pairs of socks, and then a duffel bag to put it all in, and that where he took off.
So how many boys from Gackle were drafted, do you know?
Oh gosh, I don't know. We weren't all at one time because we weren't all at one age.
Yeah.
But we had quite a few veterans out of Gackle. If you figure the Legion membership of Gackle was over 100, and and then of course we didn't get everybody to be a member of the Legion, so so there must have been quite a few, over 100.
So are you going to make a trip over to Washington, D.C. anytime and see the new World War II memorial?
I haven't any plans to see that. I've been to Washington, D.C. so many times, but that was before they built this memorial.
Yeah. So how did you come to be the postmaster?
Oh, the fellow that was in the post office when I came home from the service, he had no help in the post office, so his wife was helping him. And they had 3 children at home, and they weren't very big yet. So he approached me and says if I would work in the post office, help him in the post office. His wife should be at home, taking care of the children. They weren't school age yet, I guess. And so I says, well, what's in it? What does it pay? Well, they pay 39 cents an hour. I says, I don't think I want to work for 39 cents an hour. I'd rather spend my time with my family, and I want to go to college in September. I says, I wouldn't work for you very long anyway. Well, at about that time, one of the rural teachers wanted to go to the spring quarter for a refresher, and she asked me if I would finish her school year for her so she could go to. So I took that rural school for a month. That's all that was left. So when I got back from teaching that school, he came and approached me again. And he says, can pay you a little more now. The Congress in Washington, D.C. decided to raise the hourly wage to 59 cents an hour from 39. So and he says, it sure would be nice if I would help him out. So I decided I'd work through the summer. I said, but by September I'm going to leave. Okay. He had it all planned, I guess. Anyway, along about July, or by that time I knew the ropes in the post office, and he had showed me all the things that he had to do. So he says, I'm going to quit. He says, I don't get paid enough to support a family. And you're single, he says, I'll help you get this job. It's political, at that time. And
so you were like elected into it, or?
No, you had to get the approval of whoever was in the president, if it was a Republican or a Democrat, and you had to get the local precinct committeemen and so forth. You had to get their approval too, and of course you had to pass the test.
Okay.
So he talked me into taking the test, and I passed that. And then he took me to see all of the big bosses in Logan County on the political parties, and I had to go to Lair and go to Fredonia and different people, and I visited with them, and Mr. Connery, Norbert Connery was his name, the postmaster, and he was known, I mean, he knew these people, so, and his dad was Tom Connery, and he was really a Democrat from way back, you know. So they got me lined up with the Democrats. I said, I have no political party. So I worked, and he quit in, I think it was in November or something like that. So then they made me a temporary postmaster until my approval come through. Well, it didn't come through for quite a while. And so it was, I think, 1949 when I finally, what happened in the meantime, the first time I wrote the test, and there weren't any writing the test so they didn't have anybody else to compare or choose from. Anyway, so they had me take the test over. And so they advertised for it, and so they didn't get anybody to take it the second time.
Oh my goodness.
Because it wasn't paying, that job wasn't paying that good. And so the second time around, why they all approved it, and the local, the county, and then the state, and then they sent my name to Washington, D.C., and Harry Truman finally got around to sign my appointment, so I was appointed postmaster in Gackle.
And how much was it starting out when you started out as postmaster? How much did you make?
I think it was just around 26 or 2,700 a year.
Okay. And how long did you work as Gackle's postmaster?
34 years.
Oh my goodness. When you retired, how much were you making?
I was making a little over 22,000 a year.
That's an increase from when you started.
Yeah, but every so often, I mean, we got an increase, and in order to keep people, they had to give you some incentive to stay.
Huh. Well, shall we mosey on into your house and
Oh,
see
sure.
those pictures